Welcome back to Bumbershoot, where we're covering life's chaos with humor and heart. And I'm here, Charity, here with Rhonda and Tracy. Hello, ladies.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. How was your weekend?
It was good. I hung out with you a lot.
That's true. Well, it better have been good.
I hung out with Rhonda one day and Charity one day.
Yes,
2 days.
Uh-huh.
No, 1 day.
One day for you and one day for Rhonda.
The Tuckers I hung out with 2 days because I hung out with you on Friday and then them again yesterday. Yeah, and then since I saw you guys, I also went to my cousin Gina's, didn't I, out in Newport?
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, that was
it was like so much fun.
I was trying to remember. I talked about her coming and spending the summers, right? A little bit? Or did I? We don't remember totally.
You had the male cousin, was it?
Oh,
Joe,
David?
Yeah, David who came.
Him, yes,
Oh,
but
yeah.
not her.
Oh, maybe I didn't talk about that, but I thought I did because it was but maybe it was the chronological and kind of my focus wasn't totally there. Sorry, but I'm going to bring you up right now, girl. So Gina and I our dads are first cousins. It's cousin Dave's daughter.
Oh, okay.
And so Dad and Dave are besties, cousins. Yes. And Gina and I are like from this side of the family. She has a Puerto Rican family that's huge, and she has a lot of cousins that she's very close to around the same age, and they travel together and stuff. I'm a little jelly of that situation.
She's really pretty.
But yeah, she is. Yeah. She's a doll. And totally, even when she like dresses down, she's always so cute. Like she can look sloppy and still look cute.
Yeah.
Like she just has a way. But yeah, so she lived in Fullerton when we were growing up, and she used to spend the summers with me. And I think there was some method to the madness because I have a feeling, so our moms were the wives of the cousins, right? But then Gina's parents divorced while she was still in school. So, but mom and her mom, Rose, stayed best friends, and they still are to this day. They travel together and stuff. Good. So yeah,
that's awesome.
All the cousins are best friends. The wives, the cousins, and the cousins. But yeah, Gina, I think her mom used to send her our way on purpose to get her out of the city, to get her out of all the temptations of the area that they lived in, and she had to come out to like our podunk town and stay with her. Like we were, the do-gooder Charity that like, I don't drink, no, I swear.
Does she have any siblings, or is it just her?
Yeah, she's, so her older brother and sister are Cammie and Nicole's ages.
Okay.
So there's a few years between them. So she was kind of like,
So is she your age or similar?
Yeah, we're a month apart. She's June.
Wow. Perfect.
Yeah, and so we have so much fun together, and she's a hoot and a half. Like she is a good time in a bottle. Like honestly, she's so much fun, and I have some of my best memories of my childhood are with Gina the summers, and it's funny because like she'd have little summer crushes on my friends and things.
Yeah. There's nothing better than a bestie cousin.
I know it is. It's
better.
awesome. And when I found out about Lauren, I talked about going back for that reunion.
Yeah.
Well, Gina was the one that flew with me.
Oh.
We were on Southwest Airlines, and we were telling, it was like, there's another, how, what is the wedding singer?
Yes, wedding singer.
Where he gets on the plane and he tells like the whole plane about the story and stuff. It was kind of the same. Like I was telling the whole plane. We were having some cocktails before we got on the plane. They were telling the whole plane about how I'm going to meet this sister that I just found out about. And the whole plane was buying us drinks.
Oh, okay.
By the time we arrived, my dad and her dad were like, what have you ladies been doing? And we were like,
Nothing.
But yeah, she's, we can go and kind of like do our own thing and live our own lives and then come back together like not a minute has passed, and we just are really close, and we've been through a lot of life together. She had her first child at 18 and got married right away, and that was like, it kind of set us on a little bit of different paths, and she moved to Arizona, and so, but we always stayed in touch, and we've always been there for each other, and so she moved to Corona, and we were in the heat of raising our kids, so there wasn't a lot of free time. She ended up having a daughter. She's a year older than Logan. Oh. I think or you're younger than Luca. She's right in there. So it was kind of like she had an adult child, and then she had her younger child, and who's now 22, I think 23. Oh yeah, and I think she's a year younger than Luca. Anyway, so we've kind of been on this roller coaster of in and out of each other's lives, like, and but it's always so much fun when we get together. So my car, my brand new Land Rover, Range Rover, 6 weeks in, and it's getting a transfer case replaced.
A what replaced?
A transfer case. It was leaking transfer fluid, and I was in denial that my brand new car would be leaking.
Right? I would be too.
So it leaked all the way to where it ended up smoking out the back of my car. Yeah. So I had it towed in, and so I was going to see Brandy because Brandy lives. I go to that dealership so I could like see Brandy while my car's getting repaired all the time because it's a Land Rover brand. And so I said, Brandy, maybe we should go. Let's get a hold of cousin Gina and let's go. She lives in Newport, like right. Like if you know the area, like Newport Dunes, right behind Newport Dunes, it's so cool. Like I see her, she rides bikes and she goes kayaking and all the things. So I've gone kayaking with, I think that's what it's called, kayaking, with her in the little bay area. And so I said,
Marina, I'd love to do that.
Yeah.
It's so fun.
And so I'm like, let's see, like it was so nice. So I was like, let's go ride bikes with Gina. So Gina's like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited you're coming. So she's like the best host. She had our wine ready for us. Aww. And then she had all the bikes all charged up because, we don't pedal anymore. We gas those things.
Heck yeah.
But she had her little boom box on hers and we're cruising down Newport. We just had such a blast. We went into, I think it's called Sharky's. If you know Newport Beach, I think that's what it's called. It's a really popular bar that's been there forever. And then we went into the Flying Fish, I think it is. Had really good seafood. Yeah. But yeah, we just had the best time. So anyway, I don't know. If you know Newport Beach, it's just a fun, there's so much to do outside there. Mm-hmm. And it's a beautiful, beautiful place. So she's got her little, as she calls it, her villa. And then she also has a house in Paso. So
nice.
Another great place to go visit her. Yeah.
Jealous.
Yeah. So
I want to go to Paso.
Yeah, it's so cool there. It's really nice.
Been there.
Yeah. It's beautiful. I would recommend it.
Yeah, I would recommend it also. I loved it.
Yeah. So shout out to cousin Gina. Thanks for a great time. I love you, girl. All right. So I got to get back to I kind of left everyone hanging for 3 weeks, including Rhonda.
Yes, I'm so excited to hear this story right now.
So Rhonda listens to the podcast, even though she's in the podcast. And so she's like, you left me hanging. I need to finish the story. So where we left was, and you guys remind me again, we left.
You were telling Alex you were pregnant.
Oh, yes.
And he was like, no. And you're like, yes.
No, yes.
You haven't told Mimi.
And so what are we going to do? And I'm
What's
like,
next?
What do you think we're going to do? We're going to have a baby. And he's like, I have to tell Mimi. He's like, I haven't even told her we're married. Now I've told her we're pregnant. And so I'm like, why haven't you told her we're married? He wanted to tell her in person. I think I might have touched on that. But yeah, he wanted to tell her in person. So the part that I'm confused about is because I remember that he told her when he went for her birthday, but I'm wondering if maybe he didn't go, her birthday's February 3rd. And I'm thinking maybe he didn't go at her birthday, but he went for her birthday maybe a few months later because he bought her a Vespa. And I think in his head, he's like, oh, I'll give her a Vespa while I tell her that she's going to have a baby brother or sister. But I feel like that was the trip that he told her is when he gave her the Vespa and they were cruising on the Vespa. Well, and she was 14 because you get you can ride a Vespa when you're 14 there. But you can't get your driver's license till you're 18. Jeez. It's so weird, yeah. But they do have these cars for the in-between. They're like 2-door cars, like the little smart cars, but they're like, there's about 3 or 4 different versions of them. And they only go up to a certain speed. So it's cool. Between 14, I think when you're 16 to 18, you can get this car. And so it's just for going around town, which is awesome though.
I love that.
Like how fast does it go?
Oh, I don't know, maybe 30 miles an hour.
Oh, okay.
It's like side street.
That's fast enough.
Yeah.
To get you around.
I mean, it's not freeway, obviously.
Right.
That's, I think, but how genius that you can control the situation with that. So anyways, but nonetheless, I thought he was going to tell her that we were pregnant married and pregnant. What I didn't realize until years later is that he didn't tell her we got married. He just told her we got pregnant. So I'm like, she told me, she goes, Yeah, Dad never told me that. And I'm like, well, how did you figure it? She's like, I don't know. I just assumed that you must have got married somewhere along the way. I go, well, just so you know, we were married.
Why would he tell me? I wonder why he wouldn't tell her that you guys got married.
I don't know. I think he was more scared of that news for her than he was of the baby news.
Right.
Yeah.
I think he thought the baby would be exciting, and he thought maybe a new wife in his life was a little more touchy. And back then, like just divorce wasn't as common, and I think I might have touched on that too. But it was a lot different times. But anyway, so she found out, and she was ecstatic. Like, I was really relieved because she was really excited. And I will have to say, I have been so blessed by her receiving that she I know she's a lot older, but still, it can be really hard to have like new siblings, especially not both of your parents' sick, biological kids. But she has loved her brothers since the day she knew she was having a brother, and she's never been jealous of them. So that has been a great blessing. Yeah. So anyway, so he told Mimi, so that we got that out of the way.
Yay!
And now, but we still didn't tell. Okay, so until he told Mimi, we couldn't tell anyone at the restaurant. So the funny thing is that we just had our 25th anniversary of Gourmet Italia, and I surprised Alex, and I flew out Jenny, who is one of our first employees, and. I said to her, remember when there was 3 girls that worked there, like they were the girls. Like, it was Elizabeth, Maria, and Jenny. And they were awesome, but they were very protective and very, felt very at home there. And so then I was serving, and they don't know I'm married to him, and they don't know I'm pregnant. And I would sit down with customers and have conversations. I was the worst server because I'd forget my food because I was talking too much, all the things, but they used to get so annoyed. And then what would happen is at the end of my shift, I would sit down and talk to customers instead of doing the side work. Yes. Yeah. And they would get so mad. And I said, remember, Jenny, you guys used to get so mad at me, and you didn't know that I was actually the wife at the time. She's like, I know, it's not our fault. I go, I know. But yeah, we couldn't say anything until he told Mimi. And then we told, when I was probably about 6 months, but I was barely showing. I didn't show really till I was about 7 or 8 months.
What?
Yeah, I was so small. I was trying. I wanted to show. I was like wearing all the big maternity stuff, but it just, I was so tiny. But so we told them, and then they all like really changed their perspectives. Yeah. And then it became just really exciting that we were having a baby and all that. So anyways, so one of the things that was fun was, so we didn't go to Italy until I was 6 months pregnant. So it was before then. Let's see. I guess I wasn't even pregnant. It was November. Maybe we weren't even married when I met his mom. Actually, I think we weren't even married. I think she came in November and we got married in March. So anyways, but the first time I ever met his mom, so you guys know the story of meeting his dad, right?
Yes.
So I hadn't met his mom. She wasn't out until this November time. She came by herself, and Alex had moved in with me. I know that's not what you're supposed to do, but I did it. He moved in with me, and so his mom was coming and staying with us. So she is the cutest, sweetest thing ever. So sweet, but spoke no English, not a word. And I knew like 5 words, and that was about it. So she was very loving and receiving and kind and so sweet. And so I think she arrived maybe on a Sunday or Monday, and then Alex went to work like 2 days later. And so he left us at home alone. And I'm like, what am I supposed to do with her? And he's like, you'll be fine. Just put on television for her or whatever. And I'm like, okay. So I end up, like, she's very social. So she puts a lot of effort to try to like communicate, even though she doesn't speak the same language. And I don't remember, but I think we were sitting at the dinner table. So I think I might have made us dinner. And then we're sitting at the dinner table, and we started talking, and you would have thought we were speaking the same language, the way that we were able to communicate. And I always say it was like love that we were communicating with, but we were telling these like telling stories about each other's lives and family. And I was doing a lot of like asking a lot about Alex when he was a kid. And then does she have siblings? You know, blah, blah, blah. Tell me about Alex's brothers. And so this conversation was going for, I don't know how long. I mean, we were talking for probably 2 hours. And
so she was just kind of figuring out what you were saying in English, and then her too?
Well, yeah, it was like a lot of like charades, I would say.
Okay, it's a lot of hand gestures.
Yes, it was a lot of figuring out like what she was trying to say. Yeah. And then she was trying to figure out, so there was like, I remember she was telling me that, and it's not funny, but it is funny because when you're trying to figure out communicating, but you don't have all the tools, she was telling me that Alex's aunt was killed in a car accident. So she went like, you can't see because it's only voice, but she was like,
oh no.
And then she was like this, and then, and so I was like, oh, she died. So anyway, I was like, we were laughing, and I'm finding out about Alex's older brother was more serious, and Alex's younger brother was more playful, and all these things. And Alex was a ham. Well, we had this right where we were sitting at the table. There was a window, and I didn't know, Alex had come home a little early from work, and he's walking by the window, and he stops and he looks in the window, and we're laughing and talking. And he's like, I stood outside looking inside, like, how are they communicating? And so he comes in and he goes, what are you guys doing? And I'm like, oh, I'm learning all about your family. And he's like, how? I go, I don't know. We're figuring it out. And he's like, he didn't believe me. He's like, there's no way you were understanding each other. So I said, yeah. She told me this. And he's like, his mouth dropped. He's like, what? He goes, yeah. And then I said, yeah. And then she told him what I told her. And so that was it was a beautiful time because it really shows you that where there's a will, there's a way. And you can communicate if you want to, no matter what language you speak. I mean, obviously Italian's Latin derived, and we're kind of familiar with Spanish and stuff, but still, when you talk about like, she had no clue she didn't speak English to anybody. And I had only known the little bit of words I knew. So anyway, it was really fun. That was a fun time. And it stands out to me as one of my favorite stories. Between my father-in-law scaring me, I thought he was mafia, and my mother-in-law and well, then this is the other thing. My mother-in-law was there through Thanksgiving. And so back in the day, sorry, Mom, but it's true. Back in the day, and you know, if you're my age, that we were the generation where the box and the canned food really got popular, and that was like a thing, right? So my Thanksgivings, I remember basically being prepared out of a box and can. We had canned corn, we had canned beans, we had
stovetop stuffing.
Yeah, stovetop stuffing, exactly, all the things. Canned cranberry sauce, of course. All of it. The turkey, obviously not. And corn on the cob or mashed potatoes, no. But all the other stuff, olives come out of a can.
Yeah, everything.
Exactly. So when that Thanksgiving, it was just going to be Alex and his mom and I. Well, I bought all the goods.
Yeah.
My mother-in-law sees all these boxes and cans on my counter, and she is like perplexed. She's looking around, and she's like, and she asks Alex, what is she going to do with all of this? And he's like, I don't know, Mom. So I said, it's Thanksgiving dinner. So I start can opener, opening the cans, opening the boxes. And then 2 hours later, there's a spread on the table. Like I cooked for days.
Wait, did you have a microwave back then?
Yeah, I did have a microwave back then.
He's probably like, no more microwaves, so we can't have Thanksgiving like this.
I was like, what? Like, I didn't get it, why it was so crazy. And so now I know, because she does everything from scratch. Obviously, Italian family, and a lot of American families do that too, and I since do, and my mom too, we all do, except for like the green bean casserole. Like there's some staples that you just have to do from the box of the can. And I do like stovetop stuffing. Too. It tastes good.
Not on Thanksgiving though, but I like it other times. I won't do it on Thanksgiving.
Well, and now that I've made stuff from scratch, like there is nothing like, and you can make it to taste like the way you like it and stuff.
True.
So obviously that I've come a long way, especially married to an Italian who owns restaurants.
Right.
But yeah, that's another great favorite story with my mother-in-law. It was, I can imagine now her perspective, but then I was just so confused why it was a big deal. So, anyways, so we went back to Italy when I was 6 months pregnant. Like I said, I didn't even show, but I was trying to wear maternity clothes and stuff. And Alex took me to Taormina in Sicily, which is this beautiful like city on a cliff in Sicily. And you can see the base, like the toe of Italy from there, like over the water. So I think it's like an hour and a half or 2 hour like boat ride from toe to Sicily. And so we stayed at the San Domenico, which is like a 5-star hotel. It was gorgeous with beautiful grounds but since I know, now I know there's a tram, but at the time I didn't know. And there was stairs to go down to the beach, and it was like hundreds of stairs. And I'm kind of lazy and out of shape on a regular basis. I was pregnant, and you're making me walk down all these stairs.
Plus, you get really winded when you're pregnant.
Yeah. It just, your body is just different. Even though I wasn't carrying a ton, it is different.
It's your hormones, I think, that make that.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, like short of breath.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm like, okay, well, going down is one thing, but then I'm going to have to come up this. And then you get down to the beach, and it's all pebble, like rocks, like round, but they're rocks. It's a rock beach. It's not a sand beach.
So no smooth sand?
So no. So then this is all like new things to me. Then this Chinese people were walking around the beach selling massages, but they don't speak English. They speak Chinese or Italian. When you're like, okay, that's a no-duh thing. You get it if you think about it, but you just aren't used to that, right? So we see a Chinese or any other, nationality here, and they more than likely speak English and their language.
Sure. Yeah.
Was this your first time ever, like, in Europe?
Was that my first? I think that was my first time. Yeah. Yeah, so that was funny. I got a massage from a Chinese lady that spoke Italian on the rocks. It was 6 months pregnant. That was that. Yeah, but then I had to walk up, and I was not happy about walking up the stairs.
Like that.
But the family was really excited I was pregnant, and Mimi was excited. And so Alex, he had his girl, so he wanted a boy. And
I bet.
he, just that. I literally, I don't know what would have happened if I would have had a girl, because he was so... He would have been fine, but we had the 3D ultrasound, and it wasn't the 3D. It was before the 3D that we were going to find out what the sex was. Yeah. And he was telling everyone at the restaurants, like, I've got to have a boy. I hope it's a boy. I hope it's a boy. And so I was like, oh, Lord, pressure. Please make sure this is a boy. Geez. So we go to the ultrasound appointment. Heather Tucker went with us too. And we're in there. And they're doing the scan, and they're like, well, you want to find out? Alex is like, yeah. And you know what? Think about a doctor's office room, okay? Like the little rooms. They're like super small, low ceilings. The lady goes, okay, it's a boy. And Alex jumped and hit his head on the ceiling, like literally. Really? He was so happy. He went to the restaurant, screaming to everyone, he's having a boy. He was so excited. The king is going to be born. The king, he called him the king. So for the rest of the time, the king was going to be born. And then it was like, okay, what name are we going to name him? And I'm like, oh gosh, like the Italian names, they're so they don't sound good if you don't speak Italian, a lot of them. And then like we live on the border of Mexico. So we have a lot of Mexican names that are similar to Italian names. Yeah. And I was like, I wanted it to be, like, if it was going to be Italian, I wanted it to be really Italian and not like because even Alessandro, people you can't tell if that's Mexican or Italian or whatever. So I wanted it to be like, if it's going to be Italian, I want it to be really significantly Italian or not. And then I was like, I don't want to name it after anyone, because then if you don't name it after this person's going to be, all the sensitivity and and like, I know my dad would have loved to have a kid named after him, but that was my side, and Alex is getting his boy for the so I was just like, can we please not name him after anybody? But we went kind of round and round and round, not bad, but just round and round about names, and Luca is my brother-in-law's name.
Yes.
But it is a great Italian name, and it's very simple. You can't mispronounce it, and it's Italian sounding. And so I was like, instead of complicating it, Alex, of course, wanted Alessandro, and I'm like, no, it's not going to work for me. So anyway, we ended up.
Wanted that.
What?
That's so cute. He wanted Alessandro for him. That's cute.
That is cute. Now he has his grandson, Alessandro.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Alex
true.
would have every person on earth named after him if he could.
Alessandro
Luca
1
and Logan.
and 2.
Exactly.
Alessandro, and Alessandro.
Yeah.
He'd be like, what's that, George?
Yeah, George Foreman.
George Foreman, yeah. He would have all his kids named Alessandro, like George.
What is Luca's middle name?
Luca's Salvatore after his dad, Alex's dad. So in Italy, the firstborn son names their firstborn son after their father. So really, Francesco, my older brother, if he had a son, he would name his son Salvatore after my father-in-law. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So it would be Salvatore, Francesco, Salvatore, Francesco, Salvatore.
Oh, okay.
But he had girls, so that wiped that out. And I was like, okay, well, I don't have to do it because that's not like for the middle son. It doesn't. So I said I'll give him the middle name. So we did. We agreed on Luca Salvatore for.
That's a pretty
for
name.
Luca. When it is cute. It's funny because when he got baptized, the priest. Luca Salvatore Presti Filippo, like the Luca Salvatore.
Sounds like a king.
I know, it's so strong.
Totally sounds like
He
a
was
king.
the king.
He was the king.
Yes.
Yeah. So the funny thing is that when I was watching Birth Story. I don't know if you remember that. Was Birthday and a Baby Story on.
Oh God, I used to watch Baby Story every day.
Baby
Remember
Story.
those?
Yes.
Yeah, and then Birthday, and they were like all about having babies,
Yes,
right?
yes.
So I watched them religiously
Every day.
and I wanted a C-section because watching all of that, I was like, I'm not doing that way.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I'm getting the epidural because all the people that had epidurals were like beautiful, looking makeup on, and they were like,
Pretty hair.
They didn't have
sweat.
to push hard. They didn't have any pain. And so my thing was I want epidural and I wanted a C-section, but they wouldn't let you schedule C-sections when you didn't need
You
it.
had to have something wrong.
Exactly. So I was like praying, Lord, please let me have a C-section. So my mom's best friend, one of her best friends, Diane, she was a nurse in labor and delivery in Hemet. And so I'm laying, and so I knew so much from watching those stories.
Yes.
I knew all the things. And so I'm laying there. It was a Friday night, and I think it was a Friday night or Thursday, Friday night. And Alex is at work, and I'm laying there, and I'm like watching TV, and all of a sudden I'm all, something fishy down there. No, I don't mean that gross. I mean I just meant like, I didn't want to get too like.
Something's going on.
Something happened down there. And I was like, what is this? So I call my mom, and I'm like, Mom, like my pants were wet, but a little bit, not a lot. And so she
You're
calls.
leaking.
Yeah, that sounds gross too, but.
Well, it is what it is,
I
right?
know, yeah, I guess. So we call Diane, and I tell her, I said, I'm not having any contractions.
How
I
many
don't
months
feel
were you
weird.
at this point?
Well, I was due Thanksgiving that year, which was late November, and this was like the middle of November.
Oh, okay.
So I tell her what's going on, and she goes, and I knew this because I knew from watching the shows that anytime you have anything, you got to go to the doctor or the hospital. But I didn't want to be that one that goes in and out, in and out, and in and out. So she's like, you got to go in. And I'm like, oh, okay. And they do a test called ferning where they put the fluid under a microscope. And if it does like a fern leaf, that's what it looks like under the microscope. And if it's ferning, then it's your amniotic fluid, and so they'll induce you or whatever because now you're starting to lose amniotic fluid. Yeah. So when I went in, they did the test and it didn't come up ferning. And so they kept me for a little bit. They monitored me, had me walk around, but nothing. So it was like 4 hours later and they sent me home. So I go home, and the next day is Saturday, and I'm home alone again, and Alex is at work, and I'm like, it happened again. It happened again. But this time I was like, it's more than last time. And so we call Diane, and Diane's like, you got to go in. And I'm like, they're just going to tell me to go home. So they take me in, they do the test. It's not ferning again.
What?
And I'm like, I'm sorry. And they're like, no, you have to. This is what you have to do. This is just part of it. And I was like, So, and Alex gets called, from work. It's busy Friday and Saturday night. And so he's there, and my mom's there too. And so I'm laying there, and I just remember laying there. It's funny when I look back, because I felt like I was laying in a big, giant, dark room with one light on the bed. That was me. But obviously I wasn't. So I don't really remember what room I was in, but I remember there was a door with the windows in them, which also seemed very far away. I don't know where my head was at, but right before they were going to dismiss me, or what did they say?
Release you? Or
discharge me. Because I had been in there again for a few hours. They were trying to see if anything was going to happen. Right before they were going to discharge me, the rest of my water broke.
Ooh.
And so they tested. They were like, okay, now this is it. You're good. You're good. Yeah. But it wasn't like it would have done if it did it all at once. It wasn't a ton. It was just, but it was definitely enough. So they just made sure. And then I remember the doctor came in, and he was like totally dancing around, telling me what he had to tell me. And he's going, well, I just want to let you know that because this, and that. And I'm looking at him, and I'm like, do I get a C-section? And he's like, he looked at me like, are you okay?
Yeah, because no one wants those.
No, I did not want
I wanted it.
He's like, either.
He goes, well, yeah, we're going to have to do a C-section. I'm like, yes!
Wait, why? Is it because
my amniotic fluid had been leaking. He said what was happening was it was a high leak. So by the time it got down and out, it had diluted, and it wouldn't show the ferning, which is what had been happening for the past couple days. So Alex leaves the room when he says that. And my mom's like, do I chase after him? I don't know. Like, she doesn't know him very well. I mean, she knows him, but she's not, we'd only been, together for a year or married for a year. So I was like, I don't know. What's wrong with him? And she's like, I don't know. He seems really nervous. He's like worried about this. And I go, go tell him I'm totally fine. I'm excited.
Yeah, you wanted it.
So she's like, okay. So she went out and told him, but I think he was just still nervous because it was an emergency C-section.
Yeah.
So he didn't want to go in. He was really creeped out about the going in part. So my mom was by my side, and which is fine. And he looked through the little window watching. And so, I had Luca, and the king was born. So it was a Saturday. And when, so Alex, he saw the baby and everything. And then he went back to the restaurant kind of later. It was probably 10 o'clock that he went back to the restaurant, and he walks in the door and announces the king has been born. And so he bought the whole restaurant tiramisu, so everybody enjoy. It was so cute. Yeah. I mean, I wasn't there, but that's what they all told me. And so he was so happy that the king was born. Yeah. So that was a really fun when it went, we came from going, oh gosh, we're pregnant now. What do we do? To being able to really celebrate the birth of Luca and be excited about him. And he just he was just the cutest, sweetest baby. He was easy let me say he was easy until he was a month old. So Alex he still worked obviously on the weekends, and I'd be home alone. So I would take Luca down to the restaurant in the carrier, and we had live music on the weekends, even back then. And Luca would sit in his carrier and the music be playing, and he'd sleep through it all. He was easy. But he got to an age where I'd also learned that colicky babies. Mm-hmm. And he was colicky for the exact number of days they say it is. He started and then he stopped exactly when they said he would stop being colicky. But it was easier on me because we were at the restaurant almost every night. So people would just rock him. You can't stop a colicky baby from crying. It's just not, you can't do it. And he cried about an hour and a half every night. So while I was at the restaurant, everyone would take turns, customers, employees, they'd go out and just rock him, and then I'd get a break. So it kind of made it easier on me. But other than that, he was so easy. He was a great kid. And it was so fun to have him, and Mimi just loved him. So they, Alex flew Mimi and his mom out for Christmas that year. And so Luca was born 2 weeks early. So he was born November 17th. And so he flew his mom and Mimi out like a week before Christmas. And they thought they were going to have to wait to see Luca till they got all the way back to Temecula. But we rented a limo and brought Luca with us and picked him up. So when they had no idea when the limo pulled up, they were like looking for Alex. Alex is like, I'm right in front of you. And they're like, we don't see you. We don't see you. And then he opens the door and they're like, what? So first they're excited about the limo. Yeah. And then they get inside and the baby's there. And it was so cute. Mimi was so in love. Like, it was just the cutest thing.
So she was how old? Like 15, did you say? 14, 15?
She was 11, 12, 13, probably, 14, I think.
Cute.
And they're still all real close to this day, right?
Yeah, she loves her brothers. She has she got a L tattooed on her wrist that stands for Luca and Logan.
She's so sweet.
Yeah, she loves those boys. So, so that's really, I think that brings us, to through the first beginning of the relationship. So, and then in June was my mother-in-law's, well, it still is, her birthday's in June, and we surprised her and we brought Luca. So he was born in November. We brought him in June. So what is he, like 7, 8 months old? Yeah. We didn't tell them we were coming to Italy. We flew to Italy. We put the baby in the carrier, like Luca in the carrier, on their doorstep and rang the doorbell and then hid.
That's so cute.
And they opened the door and she didn't see him at first. And then she looks down and she's like, Mom, and she started speaking Italian and crying, and then we went up and I was crying. We were all crying and she was so excited. So we just spent some time with them then. And it's been really fun. I mean, it's very hard to have half the family in a different country.
Yeah.
It's hard to blend your cultures. Even though our cultures, like my upbringing, I have the Italian family, but he's Italian from Italy, and different. It's hard, and you have, they have their traditions, we have ours, and you got to give and take, or just take. If you're Alex, you just take, you just do your thing, and then have Mimi, like, she comes for every Christmas, but we don't have our family together all the time, and that's hard, and like missing things there. Like, we try to be as much as we can in Italy, but all the big stuff, but you can't be there for every little thing, and they can't be here for every little thing. And the language it's a challenge. I mean, there's times Alex and I argue the same point, but it's just because our communication isn't aligned that we're like, gosh, we could really have saved a lot of arguments if we just realized we were agreeing on the same thing. Right. There's been a lot of ups and downs of just, I don't think I didn't learn the language. Alex didn't teach the kids the language. I can communicate and I get by. Sometimes I'm thankful I don't understand everything. When they get into like their family discussions, kind of keeps me out of it. And I can be like, I hear no evil, see no evil. Right. But, with my mother-in-law, she wishes that we've had a lot of really deep conversations and we communicate pretty good. Yeah. Thanks to Google Translate now and things like that, we can actually have full-blown conversations and just use the communicative, apps. But Luca he ended up learning Italian. He took 3 years or 4 years in college, so he can speak.
Know that. Good.
That's so amazing.
Yeah, and my mother-in-law, she cried the first time that Luca was able to talk to her. It was so cute. Alex is like, why didn't you teach them? I'm like, wait, what? It's not my fault I didn't teach them Italian. You're the one that speaks it. Right. But he's like, well, the mother teaches them. I'm like, but the mother doesn't speak Italian. So what am I supposed to do? I'm like, if you would have just I think he felt like he wasn't home a lot, and he just felt like it was too hard to try to, he just wanted to get his point across and move on.
Right.
But I'm like, if he would have just talked to them in Italian and never
the time.
have done anything else, they wouldn't have known any better, different.
right.
They would have had it. But he didn't. So everyone in Italy always gives us a hard time. And I'm like, it's his fault. It's not my fault.
Yes.
And he always wants to put it on me, of course. But I'm like, it's not my fault. So now, as you guys know, Logan's studying Italian in Milano. Mom, it's not Milan. I'm like, oh, okay, Milano. So he's studying, and it's very hard because it's one thing to learn conversational languages. It's another thing to have to read right.
Yeah.
Know the verbs and the
yes.
pronouns and
Yes.
the adjectives and the past tense, present tense, all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's hard. So it's challenging for him, but he enjoys it. So that's good because he likes it.
But we miss him here.
But we do miss him here.
Just saying.
I know. But it sounds like he'll be out for Luca's graduation.
Really?
Yeah, in May.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I know. I wasn't gonna push that. But I was like, I guess he's not gonna be able to come out. But then Alex was like, well, we have to fly him out for his brother's graduation. I'm like, yes, we do.
That's awesome.
But now look, he's gonna be staying through September instead of coming home in June now. So I think that's another reason why that works out. So anyways, yeah, so we'll so next week we'll touch on some like further down the road in the marriage, and then then we're gonna meet some more siblings, guys.
Yay. It's my favorite.
Dad took off. He's gonna be in Florida visiting his siblings. So when he gets back, we'll have touched on the siblings, and then we can bring him in and say,
I can't wait for that.
and meet the gigolo on.
I love the gigolo.
Me too.
Yeah, it'll be fun. We'll see. So that's not all. We'll be back next week with more covering life scales with humor and heart. All right, have a good week, everybody. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.